joined. Welcome to this third webinar in the three-part series of webinars about working with the Center of Excellence, the Power Platform Center of Excellence, and getting started with your Power Platform governance journey. So this is the third webinar where we sort of finished off. We started with the planning part. The second part was mainly technical, where we looked at how to use the starter kit specifically, looked at some details there. And then in this third webinar, we're going to be sort of looking ahead, making sure that you're planning for the future, that you're able to adapt to future challenges, and make sure that you get the most out of your Center of Excellence, that it's working optimally, and also how to sort of do that. So let's see here, and can I get my slides to update here? I can. Perfect. So just a little bit about me before I get started. My name is Søren. I'm a consultant working at Projektum. Been working here for about 4 years, and besides being able to work with the Power Platform every single day here, then I also write a blog, Power Apps Viking, and make YouTube channels and about the Power Platform, governance, and model-driven apps mostly. And then outside of that, also almost all of the Power Platform certifications. I've taken those. The only thing missing is the PL 500, which is robotic process automation. So I still have that on my to-do list. But yeah, so as I mentioned before, this is the third installment in the series of 3 webinars, where we started out with the sort of defining the Power Platform strategy. Talked about how to even get started, which things should you consider at all before even going into sort of the governance journey. What is the sort of the basis, the prerequisites for having a good Center of Excellence. Then the second webinar was mainly about looking at the technical setup of this the Center of Excellence starter kit, and also just some of the thoughts around what should you do when you're actually installing these kits, and actually starting to work with your Center of Excellence, which elements are important. And here in the last webinar, we're going to be looking at how to sort of nurture and anchor this change within the organization. So when we're looking ahead, which things are important, and how do we make sure that you're actually able to, as I write here, level up your organization. So when you start to maybe adapt or evolve in your use of the Power Platform, how is your Center of Excellence able to sort of also evolve with that and adapt to that, getting more users, getting more apps, maybe different types of apps, types of users, or simply just expanding it into different parts of the organization. So being able to manage that change, that's the main theme for today. So yeah, the agenda, a little reiteration of what we learned so far, some of the things that we've been going through previously. So this is sort of also a total sum of what you should do when working with your Power Platform Center of Excellence. So also what needs to be in place now, which boxes should be checked. Key resources. I mentioned this quite a lot in the previous webinar, that resources have a pretty important role in this. If you don't dedicate resources, if there's no one available to be able to actually support this journey and support your Center of Excellence, then it's going to be very hard to succeed. Then some strategic considerations, sort of what should you be doing, and then in general planning ahead. So I'd like to bring up this slide, this sort of what is the idea when we're talking about the Power Platform Center of Excellence, just for anyone, if this is the first time you're seeing this, and also just to reiterate for those that have seen it before, the sort of the ideal is that you always just have everything is organized, everything is in these neat little boxes, and it's typically just it's not going to be like that, but this sort of the idea that you think this is the way you're going to set it up, that you can keep things organized this way. But what really happens is that you're usually outside of the default environment, which gets extremely cluttered with a lot of apps, a lot of flows, everything that just goes in there. Everybody's able to create things, and outside of that, people have their own personal environments where there's tons of apps and flows running around, and the thing is, it can be hard to keep track of. And how do you keep track of this? Sort of, where's the control? How do you manage these things? Where do you implement governance to make sure that you are keeping track of all this? Who's doing what? Who's doing the right things? Now, this is not necessarily a problem. It's a problem if you have a problem with being able to identify which sort of data is important, or which data is critical or sensitive. It could be that a lot of this is actually talks about the amount of creativity there is in your organization. The fact that you have a lot of people that are able to have these personal environments, create applications, create flows, do a lot of productivity improvements. Could be that they're using it for their departments. Could be that they're using it just for personal projects that are actually helping them. So this in itself isn't necessarily a problem. The problem is if you're having a problem keeping track of this, and if you're having an issue with data, sensitive data perhaps being shared, or that you're actually missing out on great things that are happening that could be shared across your organization or across departments. If there's any of your citizen developers, these app makers that could use more resources and more help, it's also it would also be helpful to be able to reach out to them and have an overview of who's doing what. So I mentioned before that there are some resources available from Microsoft that I highly recommend. It's the Center of Excellence Starter Kit, of course. This is a sort of a main or sort of the central tool that I'm also using here in these webinars. Then Microsoft also created this adoption workbook, the adoption best practices, and the maturity model. We're also going to be looking a little bit of that later on. Then we also previously went through this there's the getting started checklist, and there's sort of two checklists. There's one is a sort of a process checklist or sort of an idea checklist that we're looking at here. So the main issue with getting started with the Center of Excellence is that if you don't know what you want to achieve, then it makes it really hard to define any of the steps later on. So that's sort of a key area that you want to actually make sure that you know where do you want to go with this? What do you want to achieve with this? Do you want to be able to support a single department that is using a Canvas app that is developed by that department itself? Do you want to support a larger part of the organization that is using apps developed by a third party, a partner, or some sort of a third party vendor? Or is it that you have multiple departments that are working together, creating apps and sharing those with each other? So how is that that you sort of are using the Power Platform, and how do you want to support this? So then there's who will support this, who is actually the resources that are going to be working in your Center of Excellence. Who is that team? Who is your administrator? Who's responsible for managing this on a day-to-day basis? Is there anyone managing the users, helping with that? Etc. There's a lot of roles. I also went through this in the second webinar, especially the different types of personas that you want to involve when you're talking about your Center of Excellence. Then there's the level of freedom that you want to provide for the citizen developers. Should it be sort of a very walled garden that they're able to do only a few things, work with a few connectors for their cloud flows, for example, or should it be as open as possible to have as much creativity as possible? Again, this also depends a lot on the type of data you're working with, and the sensitivity of that, and your ability to also identify this type of data and identify different types of connectors that would be either that can be usable, that are allowed or not allowed. Then there's the processes that need to be in place. Is there sort of could there be a clash? There will always be some sort of middle ground between where IT is happy and where the developers are happy, the citizen developers, the people that are making your flows and apps. And finding that middle ground is key in making sure that you're able to achieve your goals. Then your goals actually for what you want to do. So one thing is what you want to achieve initially. This was my first question. What is it that you're actually just trying to do right now? But also, is there some sort of future plan? Do you want to be able to expand it across the organization, or do you want to make sure that it's just kept within one department, for example? That also plays a big role in sort of how you're defining this. Again, allocating the resources, just to reiterate that point, and installing the COE starter kit. In my mind, there's really no way about it. Even if you use it on a monthly basis, it's still better to use it. It's always a good investment. So then one thing I also mentioned before, I've shown this quite a lot, but I think we also need to just go into it. So what does this actually mean? Microsoft has this adoption maturity model, and these are the different levels here. So if we go through them just sort of briefly, some of the things I've been describing are described in these different levels. So in the first phase, where you're sort of trying to document this, where you're sort of still not really sure of everything. This is what I've been talking about in terms of what is it actually you want to achieve with your Power Platform goal, or what you want to achieve with your Center of Excellence. So sort of starting out using this, we should very quickly get beyond this level 100. Then we get to 200. So at least sort of having a little bit of documentation. It could also be that it's just documented sort of the way you actually did it, which counts as sort of a documentation. But we're still not really in the area of being able to sort of say we have good documentation for our processes or sort of our overall processes, how we want to go. Because this is where we get to the level 300, or the third level, you could say, where we have it sort of we have some sort of standard business process of how we want to do things. What is it that we want to achieve with these things? The next level, again, we're getting into the level of where we actually have our goals defined, where we actually are able to get to a level of saying, this is also what I'm talking about, that when we want to use the Power Platform and make sure that our makers are supported as much as possible, having these processes in place, making sure that your Center of Excellence supports this is key to being able to go to this place. Because if we don't really know what we want to achieve with this and how we support it, it's very difficult to be able to get to this level 400. And of course, if we get to the last place here, we even have agreed upon metrics. So this becomes even more specific, and you're able to actually get clear benefits from this. You're able to also report this further on, report this upwards, and actually show what you're achieving with the Power Platform. So this can also be used as a way of saying we're actually making headway with what we're doing, increased productivity. It's being used in this way. So sort of getting to these levels, but all of this starts with having a good Center of Excellence and having the processes in place beforehand. So I've also shown this before. The reason I'm just showing it again is because I also want to show sort of also a new way of looking at this, because I've been focusing here on when we have the dip and we have the hard part after the peak inflated inspection or expectation. But what happens in terms of when we're looking at the Power Platform governance and we're looking at the rollout? So in the beginning, a lot of the first things we've been talking about is you start with planning. It could also be that you just simply start out with installing the toolkit. This is where we go into apply. The issue is then that actually being able to work with this on a daily basis and make sure that we're actually supporting the citizen developers, that we're supporting the future development of your apps and flows, is sort of the tricky part, especially trying to fit this with the processes. And when we're talking about in the long run, being able to actually use this to be able to level up in the organization, it's you will find this dip again here because you will always find, no matter what, that the expectations that what you expected in terms of your processes might not always be real, or might not be something that is applicable. Actually, there are tons of different challenges that arise. So the hard part is not to give up or throw everything out, but to admit that you need to start somewhere, and then you need to adapt and scale. And it's always, or at least adapt in some sort of way to be able to scale, because it's if you don't start with creating these processes in the first place, you will never get to a point where you're actually mature as an organization with the Power Platform. So you have to sort of accept a level of failure, and that is not going to be completely perfect the first time. We've never seen that happen. It will probably never happen. If it does, please tell me about it. So far, I haven't seen it. But making some sort of process is still much better than making no sort of process. So yeah, accepting the fact that it will be changed, it will be modified in some way, but being able to do that in collaboration with the users, the citizen developers, is sort of a key thing. Then also, just to reiterate some points, because it could be that there are also somebody that is joining here or watching this video as when we're putting this on YouTube, that it's that is sort of starting out. I also just want to present I had a checklist previously. This was related to sort of more on the process level, but also to have a quick checklist in terms of what you need to do on a technical level. What would be my sort of main top priorities to make sure you do when you're starting out with a center of excellence, and you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know what you're supposed to do, and you just want to be able to be in as much control as possible. Well, then the first thing I would recommend: implement data policies early on. Have them on a company level, tenant level, or environment level. Or if you don't really want to do any of those things, then at least have it on the default environment. So adding these data policies, DLPs, they're also referred to that usually. Is the ability to restrict certain connectors, for example, in Cloudflows. So when you're working with the Cloudflow, that you're not able to connect a SharePoint list with Twitter. So when something is updated on a SharePoint list, that every new update is put out as a tweet. That would be one sort of maybe a little bit of a crazy example, but it is something that is actually doable in Power Automate. So implementing your data policies early on, or just as soon as possible, is definitely a top recommendation. So that was point number one: implement your data policies, or DLPs. Number two, enable environment routing. For those that don't know, this is no longer a preview feature. So this is a screenshot from Microsoft's own documentation as of today. So it even though it says preview in the screenshot for the environment, it is no longer a preview feature. It is, however, a premium feature, so it requires premium Power Apps licenses. However, but you can route your users away from the default environment. You can route them to a specific environment that is used for creating apps. So you can create a playground, because one of the issues with the default environment is that everybody's sort of on the default environment, and a lot of data is connected to the default environment. So there can be some general issues with using that, or some companies want to avoid the default environment. So having premium licenses will allow you to route users away from that if you're using if you have premium licenses and use managed environments. And of course, then update your COE starter kit. A very important thing. If you don't have the COE starter kit updated, you're losing out on important features. So the sort of the main points of setting up your center of excellence. Make sure you go through your process checklist. Or at least at the very least, go through your technical checklist, and make sure that your center of excellence, that your team is ready, and their center of excellence is ready to be able to grow and adapt. Yes. So that was it from me here today. If you have any questions or anything, then I'll also just stick around here if there's any questions right now in the chat. If there's anything that you remember afterwards, then you're always welcome to reach out. You can reach me on my YouTube channel. You can reach me by email. On X, or you can also just write in the comments here for the video here on Projectum's own YouTube channel. So making sure that you're working on having these processes in place is the best way to start. I hope you have a great journey with your center of excellence, even if, no matter of where you are in the journey. If you're just getting started, sort of in the middle and need some answers, or you're actually quite proficient and sort of have been using it for some time, maybe just needed some reminders, then I hope some of this has been useful for you. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and see you on YouTube. Bye.